page or that section, wrap it up in XLIF format and send it out to the translation company. So if you wanted to do your whole site, you grab it's always a challenge. So if you want to do your whole site, drag it down and it's just package that up. Then all you have to do, save the job, and you come back up here and you basically get this framework, and you can go in and you can request a code, and you can send it for translation. And because I'm using the internal TAM solution, it's actually going to do that translation for me, and off you go. So after seeing clients interact with the system for 5 years, we've probably got about 15,000 or 20,000 people using the platform. We can tell you that it's two ways that people do translation on the web. They either do fast hits on the front of the site, or they do big one-off jobs. There's very little in the middle. The other parts, what else is of interest? Add new languages. So if you want to add new language to your site, the one thing that we do, and there's some architectural reasons and technical reasons for this, is that you have to have a primary language version of your site. And we didn't used to do it, and then we saw it go to custard when clients got over about 100 pages. So it doesn't influence being able to have language pairs and define workflow, but you need to have one version of your site which is the correct, if you like, the up-to-date version. Because when you go and create a new version of the site, that's what you need to go and hit off, basically. So this loads up. You can come in here and you can create a new version of the site in about a minute.
How do you nominate those translation companies? How the Straker know, or this content management system know which one of them?
Yeah, in the commercial, this is a demo site, we don't expose them. When you actually go onto a proper site, you hit a language portal page inside Shadow, and you've got the list of all the translation services, where they are, what they specialise in, and then the client can just pick them out directly, or they can contact them, and most of the clients will contact them and negotiate a rate. So what they'll do is, this is kind of where human behaviour comes in. Most clients will sit there and say, I'm going to use all these translation services to save me money. The reality is they'll end up having an agreement with 3 or 4 on the language pairs and stick with them. And so what they do is because the translators can log in, they've got their own account admin area, so they can log in. Once they've agreed a rate with the client, they just update the rate and save it. So you can just go in and pick and once you've generated that relationship, then every time you create a job in those language pairs, that's what happens. It knows which translator to use.
So, let's say submit quote. No. I request a job and submit quote.
Yeah. The submit quote framework, we're actually considering dumping. Again, we had it in there on the basis that the original thinking and client feedback was they like to blast a job out to 100 translators and get quotes and send it back in. It doesn't work. It's fine for big translation jobs, but again, it is the one area where the client likes to talk to the translator and negotiate the rate directly. So, because there's so much ambiguity on your per word charge, like the client, what we found is translators won't give you a quote until they see a sample of the copy, until they know how many words they're doing. There's lots of parameters that you just can't manage. You can't automate from a technical point of view. So all we do is facilitate the communication between the translation company and the client.
So is this say a translation company notified by email?
Yep.
And then
so if you set up the relationship, say you're company A and you've just created a new section on your English version of your site, you will have already set up. And this is the main part of what we do with clients. Is the first job is to work with them to set up their translation workflow. It's the one thing that you have to talk them through and help them do it. So once they've set up their translation workflow and say they're looking at English, French, and they've got a section, we just create a new section in English. They've already updated inside Shadow the translation companies and what rate they're paying. And so as soon as that content's updated, it will send an email, just like a workflow notification, to the translator who's been assigned to that project. And they'll just click on the link. They have their own login into Shadow, so they've got their own, they're classified as a translation user, so they're locked down around what they can do. All they can do is edit content on the areas they have permissions to see. They click on the link, log into Shadow, hit the front of the site, do the translation and publish. And then what we do is we track how many words they changed, and we look at the rate card, what rate they've been charged, and then at the end of the month we do billing cycles and things, and then we pass the money back to the LSP, taking a little bit on the way through.
So you have a workflow with this?
Yeah. So inside Shadow, you've got a whole workflow framework. So I have to initiate a workflow to show you, which I don't think I'll have time to do. But basically, what you've got is you've got users. So you've got users, and users can be, you've got your standard editor-publisher relationships, then you've got translation users, and so a user can be configured on what they have access to inside Shadow, and they also belong to a group. And a group is where you define what permissions they have access to. So you can look at the site tree and you define on the site tree what role you want them to have. And based on that role, if they're an editor, they have certain rights to content objects, and if they're a publisher, they have more rights. And so what happens is, if you've got someone who's an editor, they come in, they edit the content, they press publish, it goes into the workflow, the publisher gets a notification to say, hey, this content needs to be updated, and off they go. So what we do for the translation is we treat the machine translation as an editor, and we treat the translation company as a publisher. It's as simple as that. So as soon as the machine translation is done, it fires off a notification to the translation person who logs in, does it, and publishes it.
It's always like this.
Yep. So we were lucky in that we had an existing workflow, because we had, before we got right into multi-language, it was an enterprise content management platform in its own right. We just readapted the whole thing from multi-language.
Yeah, which platform?
This one?
No, I mean, did you like develop the whole platform from scratch?
Yep.
Or
yeah, the whole thing from scratch. It's actually, I think it's on version 9 now, but we rebuilt the whole thing about 4 or 5 years ago, basically. So we had things like the permission architecture and workflow notifications were already in there. All we did was adapt them to multi-language, and the big learning for us was that we found you had to have that machine translation as an editor, and you have to bring the translator into the system as a publisher to do the translation and publish. So in fairness, if someone had to build this off the blocks without a starting point, you'd be talking millions of dollars. We came off an existing enterprise content management system that we then completely rebuilt, but we had a lot of the existing functionality already there. It'd be very difficult. I mean, if someone might decide to do it, I'm sure there are people thinking about it, but it would be very difficult to it costs a lot of money to do it off scratch now. So yeah, it has all that. The other stuff that we do, which is, are you guys familiar with rich internet applications? So Adobe Flex and Air technologies. So other things we do, again, multilingual, is we have a form capability inside Shadow. This is what we call the eye candy we're showing people. So you've got this whole Flex capability. So it's the form design that's built. It's actually using Flash to render, so you can build multiple forms. This is pretty neat stuff. And we're going to release, so we're looking at multilingual blogs. We've got multilingual news, multilingual forums, multilingual wikis. Interestingly, this is where it starts to get really challenging. You go back to that whole workflow. We've had a lot of clients asking about wikis because they want